Good morning, sons and daughters of the Most High. My name is Nkwobi with the Igbo Hebrews. Brothers and sisters, happy Passover feast. I do hope those of you who watch my videos must have celebrated the Passover feast last night, or must have tried to keep the Passover feast last night, which was the evening of the 1st of April. If you follow the Hebrew calendar for 2017, the 1st of April is the Passover feast. So in the evening of that day, that's when the feast is celebrated. And how is the feast celebrated? Excuse me. According to the book of Exodus chapter 12, we celebrate the feast by having a meal of roasted goat head and legs eaten with the bitter herbs. For those of you who have access and who can prepare this meal, it's ideal to do that, and that's exactly what me and my family did last night. For those of us who cannot, you celebrate a dinner feast with your family to commemorate the promise that the Most High made to liberate His people from bondage. It's very important to commemorate this and to pray to remind the Most High of what He said and what He has promised. This is very important. If you read the book of Exodus chapter 12 in verse 25, the Most High made that very clear that we are celebrating a promise. So what we are celebrating is what the Most High promised to do, and that which He accomplished when our ancestors were first enslaved in the land of Egypt. That was the time when every Hebrew person was enslaved by the Egyptian. It's not like we have some people enslaved, like today we have some of us enslaved in America, some are in Africa. In those days, every Hebrew person was enslaved in the land of Egypt. And so the Most High had to do something extraordinary to liberate us from this enslavement. And that's why He told us to celebrate this feast and to mark it. Let's read it from the Bible. Let's read it from the scriptures. Go to the book of Exodus chapter 11, and let me start from verse 6. Actually, I recommend everyone who read it start from verse 1 and read the entire thing, but let me just start from verse 6 here. He said, "And you shall keep it until the 14th day." That is talking about the lamb which we shall use for the celebration. "And you shall keep it on the 13th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of the children of Israel shall kill it in the evening." Okay. "And they shall take the blood and strike it on the two side posts and on the upper door post of the house wherein they shall eat it. And they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it." So the most important thing here we are told is that we are supposed to eat the flesh of this sacrifice, this lamb for sacrifice, roast with fire and with unleavened bread. If you read in verse 9, it said, "Eat not of it raw nor sodden with water." That means we're not supposed to boil it or eat it raw. However, we are supposed to roast it with fire and eat it with bitter herbs. And this is what our ancestors have been doing, because it says here in the Okay, let's continue reading. He said, verse 10, he said, "And ye shall let nothing of it remain until the morning, and that which remain of it in the morning ye shall burn with fire." So the leftover of the meal you eat should not be consumed again. Whatever is left of that meal, you should burn it with fire. It's not meant for consumption anymore. Verse 11, he said, "And thus shall ye eat it, with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and ye shall eat it in a haste. It is the Lord's Passover." And when our ancestors were in Egypt, they were told to eat this meal in a haste to get ready, because the next day they were leaving the land of Egypt. So they should get ready, because when the sun comes up the next day, they were on their way out. For verse 12, he said, "For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and I will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both men and beasts, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord." That's important to know. The Most High will execute judgment against all the gods, those gods that are keeping us behind, those gods that are holding us down. The Most High will execute judgment, because He is the Lord. He is the God of gods. He is above all of them. Okay. And verse 13 says, "And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where ye are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt." So the Most High said, when he sees the blood, he will pass over. The most important thing to know here is that the Most High was about to unleash some calamity in the house of Egypt. So the one thing we know is that good and evil, they come from the Most High. Without permission from the Most High, it's not going to happen. That is why when we live in a time when the evil ones are doing what they are doing, we should put our focus on the Most High. We should pray to the Most High, the God of Abraham, to keep us safe from the calamity that he has permitted to be, because he knows everything. Go and read the book of Isaiah chapter 45 in verse 7. It says that both good and evil come from the Most High. That's Isaiah chapter 45 verse 7. And I also read the book of Enoch, when the fallen angels were destroying the planet. The angels made it very clear the Most High is aware of all this. He suffers it inside because he is going with the science. So, brothers and sisters, something that is noteworthy here is that the Most High made it clear that this feast of the Passover is something that we should keep in our generations forever, as a feast forever. Exodus chapter 12 and verse 14, we should keep this as an ordinance forever. It's interesting to know that our ancestors have kept this feast forever. The feast, like I've said in so many of my videos, the feast of the Passover is actually called the celebration of the promise. If you read Exodus chapter 12 and verse 25 to 27, you understand why it is called a celebration of promise. And in Igbo land, we call it Ibankwa. Ibankwa means to celebrate the promise. To celebrate the promise is a very important thing that we celebrate in Igbo land. Now, in Igbo land, we actually use Nkwobi to celebrate this, which is what the Most High told us in the book of Exodus chapter 12 and verse 8, that we should eat the head and the legs of a goat, roasted goat or a sheep, with bitter herbs. In Igbo land, we call that meal, we call it Nkwobi, Nkwobi. And we did, that's what we used to celebrate this feast. And that was what in my household we did last night to celebrate it. Now, our ancestors have passed this on to us in Igbo land, and it's important that we pass this on to our children as well, because if you read the book of Exodus chapter 12 and verse 26, the Most High said, when your children ask you of this service, we should explain to them that this is what the Most High did to save us from the land of Egypt. There obviously has been a break in communication between our ancestors and us, from telling us the essence of this meal. But when I was growing up, brothers and sisters, in the village, I knew that this meal we call Nkwobi, is food for the elders. It's some kind of a sacred meal. And today, if you go to almost every joint, or almost every night out, you see people preparing Nkwobi, even chicken Nkwobi and cow Nkwobi and anything, And Igbo people eat it, they spend most of their evening time, hanging out in joints where this is prepared. But growing up, that was not the notion I had. Though we had lots of goats and chicken and everything, we were not preparing Nkwobi like that. We know that Nkwobi was a special occasion. It was it's some kind of a sacred meal. I don't know why we know that, and my parents did not know why, but they knew that this was a sacred meal, and it was a well-known notion. Before this joint started preparing it anyhow now. So it's only when I started reading the Bible that I understood that this meal is something that was divinely ordained. And that was why we don't play with it in Igbo land in those days. I mean, if you go to any Igbo man's house, they can prepare any kind of meal, and we do have different kinds of dishes. But Nkwobi was something that was rarely prepared. It was only prepared when elders were doing something particular, which we didn't know in those days. But now, having studied the Bible and made that connection, we understood that this meal was basically reserved because it was ordained by the Most High. So that has been the notion I had growing. So a lot of time, this information was not passed completely from parent to child. But when you are observant and you look at what's going on, you see that, okay, this is what we've been doing, and you now begin to understand why it's being done. So Nkwobi is a meal that has been sacred to the Igbos for a while. You understand? It's a sacred meal to the Igbos. Even though it's a delicious meal, very delicious, very healthy, that we eat, it was a sacred thing. It was treated with some kind of sacredness. And now, so when you read the Bible, you understand that this is something that the Most High asked us to use to celebrate the Feast of Passover. So after the Feast of Passover, brothers and sisters, we get to the Feast of Unleavened Bread. I've been able to, anybody can download our calendar from our website. Please just download our calendar, and I think we still have the 2016 version there, but just change the first date to 19th of March 2017, and every other thing will auto calculate. It's an easy thing to do. You can also see a cutout of that on our Facebook page. We'll start updating that. So I hope brothers and sisters are in the spirit of this celebration right now. If you were not able to celebrate it, you can still celebrate it. It's not that it's not like if you miss one day, you've missed everything. No. If you're not able to celebrate the Passover yesterday, you can still celebrate it next week and celebrate Feast of Unleavened Bread. In the scriptures, there are times when the Passover was celebrated in the second month because they missed it in the first month. So that can still be done, and the Most High understands this as well. So may the Most High bless each and every one of us, and we should make the effort to come back to the ways of our God. It's not going to be easy, it's not going to be ideal, it's not going to be common, but it's something that we must do to ensure the mercy of the Most High. May the Most High bless each and every one of us. Salam.